Dear chess fans, I would like to share with you some very exciting news. As imagine you are a 10-year-old and you're living your chess dream. You just started playing chess at the beginning of this year. Then in June, you become the African youth champion. And after that, 1 month later, you become the national champion, winning the Egyptian chess championships ahead of 369 other players. Absolutely incredible. It should be said though that, well, not all the top players were participating. There are some really strong players there. Ahmed Adli, former World Youth Champion. Amin Bassem, former 2700 player. They didn't participate. But still, there were many titled players, FIDE Masters, International Masters. As this happens at 10 years old, it's super impressive. Well, the lucky man here in the story is Abdelrahman Sameh Mohamed. He just started playing chess. He doesn't have that many resources, doesn't get too much support apparently, but still he's super talented, and that's also what people noticed who have worked with him. For instance, Ahmed Adli, nice guy who I know from many years. We've played against each other also, and well, he is a very strong grandmaster and coach. And he has trained a bit with Abdelrahman. And he noticed that he is probably one of the best players from Egypt ever. And he is like working like a machine. That's analyzing like an engine. So he even dared to make the comparison. He is like maybe the new Bobby Fischer. Well, that is quite a statement. I'm not sure I would dare to say it. I mean, Abdelrahman becomes champion at the age of 10. Bobby Fischer won the national championships at 14, but that championship was probably somewhat stronger than the Egyptian one. Still, super impressive result. Thanks to chess.com for an impressive report on this event. And based on that, I also want to show you the best game played by Abdelrahman in this event. He is playing with the white pieces against Hamed Wafa. It's an international master. And let's have a look what happens in this game. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit the subscribe button. Give it a like. And really appreciate all the support, guys. So here we go. Abdelrahman is playing with the white pieces. He goes for 1 e4, e5, bishop c4. The bishop's opening. Knight f6, d3, bishop c5. All pretty standard. Both sides are developing. White goes for the move a3. Kind of a modest move. No need to play it yet. Black goes for c6, preparing to strike in the center with d5 at some point. Bishop anticipates it, goes back to b3, d6. And still, interesting moment. This is typical for the bishop's opening. You can still develop your knight to f3 with some sort of Italian game. But the reason people go for this opening, the bishop's opening, is to insert the move f4. So you're trying to make things a bit more spicy. d5 played, so black is about to open up the center. Can get really sharp, and then hopefully when it gets opened, maybe white is going to regret not having developed his pieces first. Well, before anything else, queen f3 played. Interesting idea. Knight bd7. And here white closes the position with the move f5. So king side is closed. Black can still decide what to do in the center. But white has a very simple and straightforward plan, which will be revealed very soon. Black goes for a5, hoping to get in a4 at some point to try to trap the bishop. a3, bishop can always go back. And now, also another interesting moment. Black can, for instance, push with b5 and you remain flexible whether to push the a or b pawn first. But Wafa went here for the move a4. Bishop a2, b5. So black is clear making his plans on that side of the board. Knight ge2, white continues developing. And I think black should try to remain flexible. White doesn't want to open the position at all. But black can seriously consider here moves like queen a5, trying to prepare b4. And it's a sharp game. But you can see also in all these positions that white cannot castle here because of the bishop on c5. While castling queenside also doesn't look very attractive because placing your king there, you're probably walking into some sort of pawn break. So black decides here to play d4. I think this is a serious positional error because it also opens up the diagonal for this bishop. It closes the center, and it doesn't matter. The knight has to come back to d1. After bishop e7, the knight goes to f2. It is ready to rejoin the action at the other side of the board. Black goes for c5, expanding on the queen side, aiming for a pawn break, maybe with b4, maybe with c4 at some point. But now white launches the g-pawn. g4, excellent idea, knight e8, and also the h-pawn comes. So these pawns are looking super impressive. This pawn on h4 can never really be taken. If you do so, there is queen h3 with an attack on the bishop. If the bishop goes away, pawn on h7 is hanging. One typical line, it's not forced at all, but just to illustrate the danger of black's position, if you do take with check on f2 and then play the move h6, then white can simply sack the bishop on the h file. G takes, queen takes, and mate cannot be avoided either on h7 or h8. Back to the game, pawn on h4 cannot be taken. That is clear now. Black played c4 instead, and now it's g5. So white is pushing the pawns, hoping to create an opening, maybe with f6, maybe with g6 at the right moment. The fact that black needs to retain control over these squares makes it quite unpleasant for him. Rook a6, typical maneuver covering the 6th rank. Rook g1, eyeing the king, getting better prepared for an opening of the g file. So therefore the king goes to h8. Knight g3, white is bringing troops to the battlefield. Knight d6, knight's coming back into play. And what should white do? White can already consider trying to strike somehow, pushing more pawns. Ideas like bishop d2, maybe put the king on e2 and get the rook over will probably also help white to strengthen his attacking potential. Well, knight h5 was played. Not 100% sure that is the way to go, but it's clear there are plans based on knight takes g7 and followed by f6. So you can see that this 10-year-old has some very sharp eye. He's looking for immediate tactics, but more experienced players, they know that it makes sense to make sure that all your pieces are well placed before starting an attack. Well, anyway, rook g8 played. Black also understands the danger. Bishop d2, rook c6, and the king indeed stays in the center. This is interesting. Normally you need to bring your king into safety, but here with the center closed, this is the safest spot for the king. Now, black played the move g6, attacking the knight and trying to clarify the situation himself. Imagine, if you do take, you can take back with the pawn, the f-file is open and, well, the attack is coming to an end. So that's not clear at all. White played here f6, counter-attacking the bishop on e7. Pawn takes knight, pawn takes bishop, queen takes, black is a pawn up. Not for long, because on the next move, the queen captures on h5. What should we think of this position? I believe black is doing actually okay. If he just continues with a move like knight c5 with the idea to get the bishop involved, I don't really see white's attack coming off the ground. So it's still a sharp game, but I fail to see how white is going to deliver the next punch. Knight f8 was played in the game. It's more passive. You're guarding the pawn on h7 to avoid any sort of mating ideas later on, but knight is obviously better placed on c5. Well, anyway, queen f3 played. Now pawn takes d3, pawn takes d3. Now on one hand you're improving white's bishop, so that could have been an argument to keep the pawn on c4, but here the benefit for black's position is the opening of the c file. So the rook comes in, it's looking for counterplay against this king on the 2nd rank. Rook g2 c1 played, trying to neutralize the threat, and after rook takes b2, there is knight to d1, and all of a sudden this rook on b2 has just been trapped. Now that means that black has to give up the exchange. I am pretty sure this is what black had seen in advance. It's not a blunder. He is relieved actually to trade off this bishop. Rook takes d2, king takes d2, and there are ideas, for instance, to bring your knight in to f4, which is not really a possibility when the bishop is guarding that square. This idea could have been implemented right away, but bishop e6 was the move black started with. Knight f2, Knight g6, the knight hits the pawn on h4 as well. Not sure you want to take that pawn because it opens up the h file. Bishop takes bishop, queen takes. And interesting moment, because how to proceed here? Well, once your material up, you normally want to go for the exchange of queens, which was not played by Sameh Mohamed. Why? I'm not really sure. Maybe he didn't like the fact that the knight can come into f4 and then rook g2 is coming, but you can easily parry the threat here by playing the move rook g1. And well, all the open files, they're under control, which means that black cannot occupy it and generate counterplay. Looks like white is technically winning here. However, instead of queen f6, knight g4 was played, probably with the aim of getting the queen to f6 anyway, but now it's the knight coming into f4, preventing white from carrying out that option. This knight is super well placed here, preventing all the counterplay, and hopes to set up some threats against the white king as well. Rook c2, intending to double at the right moment. And well, difficult position because it's not easy for white to activate the rooks. Placing rooks on the c-file is very logical, but how can you eventually infiltrate? I mean, maybe on the 7th, but what is there to gain? Keep in mind that when the rook is leaving the protection of the king, white may also face some serious issues regarding its king safety, but also regarding weak pawns on a3 and d3. Well, what should black do? Probably something like rook b8 and prepare the pawn push. In the game, they followed the immediate b4, and now after pawn takes b4, his idea was to follow it up with rook a8, so that the rook is behind the passed pawn, and black has ideas to push the pawn to a2. However, this is a critical moment and probably something which had been overlooked by Wafa, as now white has the key move of the game. Not easy to spot it at all, but I give you a few seconds more to think about it. And hopefully you can find a move played by this super talent from Egypt, Abdelrahman Sameh Mohamed. He found this incredible idea. Knight takes pawn. So you're removing the most important defender of the knight on f4. In fact, the only defender. The point is that after queen takes, now you can tickle the queen once again with the move rook c5. Thanks to the pawn on b4, you're able to install that rook on the c5, hit the queen. If the queen goes away, then you're able to take on f4, and black's position is falling apart. You've managed to trade off black's most powerful piece with ideas to follow it up with the exchange of queens. Well, in any case, after rook c5, black didn't drop back with the queen to e6, but instead played here the move knight d5. Remarkable idea, and how white, of course, captures it. And the point is that the queen comes in to h2, looking for counterplay, but there is the move queen e2, offering the exchange of queens, and you cannot really take on h4, because then the knight on d6 can always be taken at some point. Well, gotta watch out for queen f4 ideas, but anyway, queen takes h4 is rather slow and should not really be working. Queen f4 immediately was played, king goes to c2. If you ever consider a check on c8, you can block with the rook on the c-file, so the threats are gone. Black instead played a3, but then the king comes over to b3 to hit the pawn. Rook c8, once again threatening to enter. It's not such a big deal. White can even go rook f1, attacking the queen. Rook c3, king a2. And now the queen got to keep the knight defended. Queen g3, rook f3, once again attacking the queen. Queen g1, here you gotta watch out for counter-attacking ideas against the king. I'm not sure if you can actually take that knight on d6, but it feels like the queen will come in at some point, and who knows, maybe there is enough counterplay to hold on. Just keep it simple. Rook f1 is a good move. I really like that such a 10-year-old is consciously trying to prevent the opponent's threat. So rook f1 is a good move, queen g3, and now queen f2. Here you're forcing the exchange of queens. Now after queen takes d3, there's no time to take the knight because of rook c2. With a double attack, black is picking up the queen. But white has of course seen that there is queen takes d4 with check, which indeed forces the exchange of queens. And now The rest is a matter of technique also for a 10-year-old. Queen takes d4, rook takes d4, white's an exchange up. You can play knight b5, but then you're hitting the knight on b5 immediately with rook d5, rook c2, king b3, attacking the rook as well. Another check. And then it's king to c4, attacking the knight on b5. Knight got to go away. And here the rook gets behind the passed pawn, hits the pawn, a2, rook takes f7, threatening the knight. And if the knight goes to a random square, you even got to watch out for back rank mates or ladder mates in fact. So king g8 played. Now if you do take the knight, there is still rook c2. That's something white probably didn't want to allow. Look at this. They followed rook d7 first. And now after king f8, there is king to c3 attacking the rook on b2. Rook b1 played. And well, now there is rook takes c7. If you do promote your pawn, you can simply give up the rook on a5 and you have a rook endgame with 3 or 4 extra pawns. That should be enough. Rook c1, king d4, rook takes c7, rook takes a2. Black is down 3 pawns in this endgame, so the position is absolutely hopeless. The game continued for 16 more moves. King e7, rook a6, rook d7, king e5. And here you see that white has multiple plans. He can go after the pawn on h7. And in the game, white even didn't succeed in winning the pawn. Move the rook back to d6. Black regains 1 pawn, so black is only 2 pawns down in this case. But here we see that white's pawns are just superior. They are coming forward. So back rank mating ideas are in the air. But even if it's not getting made, white will definitely succeed in promoting one of these pawns. And that's in fact what happened, because here with rook d8, king g7, h6, you're forcing the king to come forward. You give another check, king gotta go to h5, king e7, of course taking on g5, trades off rooks, and the e pawn will be promoted. Rook a1, e6, check from the side, king just goes away, hides from any check, rook a6, king f7, and there's nothing you can do against e7. King f8, e8 queen, and it's game over. This was, in my opinion, the most impressive game from Abdelrahman Sameh Mohamed. And we will definitely hear more from him in the near future. 10.5 out of 11 is a monster score, very impressive. And well, congratulations to him, his family, all his fans. Hopefully he will find the right support in his career to make next steps. And well, as Amin Bassem, former 2700 player, said, he is beyond any doubt the strongest, the biggest talent from Egypt in history. So I'm very curious to see how he is going to develop in the next couple of years. Let me know in the comments, what do you think of his game, of his success? And do you know any better stories of young guys winning their national championship? I'm curious to hear. I can always try to cover it on the channel as well. So please keep me updated as well. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.